What's up, guys? Scotty2Hockey here, aka the Average Hockey Fan, once again with Montreal Canadiens fans' expectations for the 2019-2020 season, where I asked fans on Twitter and social media a couple questions on their expectations for the upcoming season for the Montreal Canadiens. And up first, I wrote, what expectations do you as a Montreal Canadiens fan have for the team this season? Do you think they're not a playoff team? A borderline, a fringe playoff team, definitely a playoff team, or in your mind, are they a Stanley Cup contender? Also, what prospects do you expect to make the team this year? So pretty straightforward. Do you think they're a playoff team or not? And what prospects would you like to see make the team? Up first, we have Paul B on Twitter. He says, I see them as a fringe playoff team that could potentially grab a wildcard spot. Depends on the health of Carey Price and if all of our players can repeat what they've done last year. Personally, I think some players will be better than what they were last year. Players like Jesperi Kotkaniemi and Jonathan Drouin should have great years this year, in my opinion, and I fully expect Price to be healthy. And up next, we have Serwin Canada. He posted this on Facebook. He wrote, I think we defy the leaf blower reporter. He wrote, I think we defy the leaf blower reporters on TSN and Sportsnet and make the playoffs. Great comment. Couldn't agree more, especially when it comes to TSN. They are very, very Toronto biased. Almost everything you see is about the Toronto Maple Leafs, especially with TSN radio. So really, really like that comment, and I agree with Serwin. Up next, we have Dartmouth Boy on Twitter. He says, borderline at best. Paling should stick for sure. Wouldn't surprise me if they took a small step back this year. A lot of fans are saying this, especially where Montreal didn't go after a guy like Gusev, and they didn't go after a lot of big names in free agency. They let go of Jordy Ben. They brought in Ben Sherratt, so a lot of fans do agree with that opinion. Up next, we have Howard Warner on Twitter. He wrote, definitely a playoff team, He says Paling makes the team and Suzuki has an outside chance. I agree with Howard. Up next, we have my good buddy Talking Habs with Rick. He has a YouTube channel under the same name. Check him out. He says, I think there will be a borderline playoff team fighting for a wildcard spot. Ryan Paling will make the team, possibly Otto Leskinen and Nick Suzuki. Go Habs, go. I agree with Rick's assessment. He's definitely a guy who knows what he's talking about. Up next, we have Pat Nadeau on Twitter. He says, battling for a spot, but ending up inside this time. A repeat from last season with more of a fortunate outcome. And I really, really hope that Pat is right, because we all know how brutal it was seeing the Habs just miss last year and Columbus take that spot. And up next, we have Amanda C. She says, Montreal is going to be the surprise of the East. I truly feel they will steal the third spot in the Atlantic Division over Boston or Toronto. I think Price will have a Vezina caliber year and actually get some scoring for once. As for prospects, I have Paling, Suzuki, and Brooks making the team, and Montreal at least wins one round. They're probably not going to win a cup this year, but in 2 or 3 years, I think they will be a Stanley Cup contender. Up next, we have John Smith. He posted this on Facebook. He said, I think we make the playoffs. I expect Paling and Suzuki to both make the team this year, and Josh Brooks to get a couple of call-ups from Laval. And I really hope that John Smith is right, because I would love to see Josh Brooks at least get a chance in Montreal this year. And as we admire this beautiful picture of the former Toronto Maple Leafs, I would like to get into my next question, ascertaining as to who's going to be the highest point getter in Montreal this year. And it's pretty much unanimous. I wrote, calling all Habs fans, who do you think will lead the Habs in points this year at the end of the year? How many points total do you think they will have and why? I'm making a few videos on thoughts and expectations for the year. The more comments, the merrier. Just like on my YouTube videos, guys. The more comments, the merrier. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button, please. And up first, we have a guy who has another great YouTube channel, The Sin Bin. He says Max Domi will lead the team with 76 points because of the chemistry he'll develop playing with Jonathan Drouin and Nick Suzuki on the line. Habs will get 98 points, good enough for the second wildcard spot. The hockey guy says the Habs might not make the playoffs because teams like Florida have improved. I think he is on crack. Even if Florida makes it, there's no guarantee Buffalo, New York, Carolina will make it. And he says, F the naysayers and Boston Bruins fans, Habs F the world, P.S. Jack Edwards blows. And up next we have S. Domi. He says, or S on Twitter, he says, Domi, 82 points. So pretty good, solid prediction. And I also believe I posted this same comment towards the end, because he does make a point why he believes Domi will have 82 points. And it's a pretty good point, so I'll get into it at the end of the video. It ascertains to the prospects. And up next, we have my good buddy Talking Habs with Rick once again. He says, if Jonathan Drouin can find his game and be consistent all season, he could possibly be the points leader, especially if he starts to produce more on the power play, because he's supposed to be the quarterback on the power play. I'll say Drouin with 75 points. Imagine me picking Drouin, LOL. Because if anybody follows Rick's channel, he is a fan of Drouin, but he really gets on Drouin about his work ethic, like a lot of us do, because we've all seen Drouin coast, especially after having great games and then going 19 games without a point. It's just unacceptable in Montreal. Up next, we have JF on Twitter. He says, Domi will lead in points again. He's just hitting his stride and will be a career 80-plus point player in my opinion. Will, determination, animalistic drive will carry you a long way. That sums up Max Domi perfectly. Will, animalistic drive, and the fact he wants to carry himself all the way to a Stanley Cup, hopefully. Up next, we have Paul B on Twitter. He says, Domi in points with 65 to 70. I kind of hope he's wrong. I hope Domi has 75 to 80. And he says, Gallagher in goals, 30 to 35. I'm pretty sure he's pretty on the nose with Galley. I'm expecting at least 30. But if he could pull off 35 to 40 goals, I would be absolutely pumped. We all know Galley has the potential to score 40 goals. And once again, we have S on Twitter. He says, Domi, 82 points. I know I already posted this, but this was his point. He says, especially with all those young talented forwards coming up in the CH. Of course, he's talking about Paling, Suzuki, Kakanyemi. So Domi over the years should get better in Montreal, especially with a guy like Nick Suzuki on his wing, or Domi moved over to the wing and Suzuki at center. He should be excellent for sure. And up next, we have Colin Crew on Twitter. He says, Domi, and then he says, from 73 to 94 points. I'm assuming that's what he means. And he says, because I believe they have a better backup, and the power play can't be any worse. I can't say I don't agree with Colin, but I do hope that, I would love to see him have 94 points, but myself personally, I think he's more of an 80 to 85 point guy at best. And the best comment I had to save for last, we have Mike Vini on Twitter. He says, Charles Hudon with 168 points. And like you can see in my comment below, I say my kind of expectations. If Charles Hudon can have 168 points, it all turns around for the Montreal Canadiens, and they're almost guaranteed to get a Stanley Cup with a 168-point player up front. I'm so glad we re-signed him as an RFA, guys. Anyways, guys, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to comment. I hope you enjoyed the video. Feel free to comment your expectations on the upcoming season, and of course, have a great day. Scotty 2 Hockey, a.k.a. The Average Hockey Fan, over and out.